now from Nashville, Tennessee, it's time for another episode of Tips, Tactics, and Tools for a Safer Tomorrow, where all things related to your safety and security are discussed, detailed, and delivered to you. You may leave with a tip that saves you money or a tactic that saves your life. So here are your hosts, owner and founder of Defend Systems, Brink Fidler, and owner and operator of Herring Technology, Tom Herring.
Hey everybody, welcome to this edition of Tips, Tactics, and Tools for a Safer Tomorrow. I'm your co-host, Brink Fidler, owner and founder of Defend Systems. With me, as always, is my co-host and founder of this podcast, Tom Herring, owner and operator of Herring Technology, who was just checking his temperature during this COVID-19 pandemic, where it is pretty important to be doing things like that. And so today, it's very timely to be discussing this. I mean, we're all living in very uncertain times and things that none of us have ever been through before. And so, we're all kind of learning a little bit each day as we go. But one piece of technology we want to talk about today that is really going to be a game changer, I believe, in this world, and as does Tom, is the thermal detection cameras being able to detect certain levels of temperature of people as they pass in front of your camera. So I'll let Tom talk a little bit about the technology, but I got a few questions. I want to take some deep dive into it and discuss with you all the different applications that we've already thought about and questioned, but I'm sure more people have more questions about it, and hopefully we'll go to Herring Technology and reach out and ask some more questions. But Tom, just hit a brief overview of kind of what the technology does and how it's applicable to most organizations.
We refer to these cameras as HAT cameras, highly accurate thermal cameras, which basically zoom in on a temperature and actually give you that reading. With the software, we're able to put a threshold in there to where if it's above a certain level, it'll send an alert to a guard or whoever's watching. And who to go pick out at that point in time and take them, to the clinic or over to the side and actually use an FDA medically approved device to determine, if they do have a temperature that's elevated enough to be considered a fever. There's a lot of technologies that go into it. It takes a little bit of facial detection, not recognition, but detection. To determine that it is a human face. And so it's only reading the temperature of the face, generally at the point of the eyes or the forehead or the temple is where the most accurate temperature is going to come from. Do want to state that this is only surface temperature. This is not core temperature, body temperature. That's why you can't determine if it's fever or not fever. It's only saying, hey, there's it's giving that first warning that let's take a look at this individual here and see if it's somebody that needs to come on in and be around others at the time.
Well, I think the technology is phenomenal, and I think the applications are really endless, but a few things I want to hit on real quick that you just touched on. Number one, the reason it has to recognize a face is because we don't need it scanning somebody's lunchbox that they're bringing in or, their handbag or whatever else, right? So I know there's a lot of concern for people around privacy and facial recognition and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's really important to understand that this is not facial recognition. It's detecting just faces, so it knows what to scan. The software knows what to scan, so we're not getting a bunch of false readings and just slowing down processes for people coming in the building. Secondly, the one thing I noticed about this that I love is that it can scan up to 30 faces at a time. So if you got large corporations like we have several of here in Middle Tennessee, as their employees are coming in the entrance, if you do have a gang of them pouring in at the same time, this will scan up to 30 at one time, which is unbelievable to me. But beyond the COVID-19 issue, right, just from a wellness and health standpoint, of course, the COVID-19 is what's going to drive, I think, people to this product. But look at flu season, right? I mean, flu kills how many people a year? And how could this be a game changer and help, prevent the spread of the flu also? I mean, I'm sure that's come up. And again, COVID-19 is what's going to, I think, drive people to this technology. But my gosh, the applications for, corporations, schools, healthcare facilities. I mean, I think the applications are endless.
Absolutely. Well, the one place that we've looked at it is in where there's large amounts of people coming in at shift changes to work. So if you're having to stop, an individual and scan them 1-to-1 with a old traditional here, the minute they stop, they have to be compensated for their work at that point in time. So if you have 500 employees walking in and the first one stops to scan, everybody else does too. So you have to take that into consideration. The system we have, it's a thermal camera, and it's detecting the temperature as they walk by. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to do anything. It's doing it. Now, if one is alerted off of an elevated temperature, you pull them aside. Now, that compensation starts at that point, but it's only for, if you have calls for it, not everybody. It allows people to just freely walk through. It's passive. People aren't getting aggravated with it. Right now during COVID, you don't mind stopping and getting your temperature checked. You're actually glad people are doing that, But I was on the phone this morning, and, in 3 weeks, when you're doing that every day, it's not going to be so, oh, I'm glad they're doing that any longer. It's going to be, oh, crap, I got to stop. I got to do this. This still allows you to do it and go on. And like you said, flu season, it's not going to stop right now. It's just like 9/11. We put in a lot of security technology post 9/11 to prevent, never went away. So a lot of this is going to be the same way.
That's exactly right. And the answer, to be able to reach out and potentially stop infected people from coming to school or coming to work or whatever else, I just think it's going to be a game changer. I want to talk about the alert you keep hitting on, just for those people that maybe don't speak technology and security and things like that. So like a standalone system, that you set up in somebody's lobby, what all does that, what are they getting? If they say, hey, I want to set this up in my lobby, what does that look like? What is that particular package, the non-mobile one? What does that look like? What do they get? How is it set up? And just kind of dive into that a little bit to educate not just me, but the audience too.
Okay. It's a bullet camera, which everybody has seen on a building. It's a little larger because of its thermal, but it's still relative in size to a normal security camera that people would see, inside of a normal existing building. It is, can be mounted permanently to the ceiling or the wall to catch the pathway coming in. Behind that, you'll have a cable that runs basically to a switch where it receives its power, and then a small computer that has the software on it that sends the alerts. Now, you can hook that computer up to your network so that it can be monitored. If you have a guard station, HR administration, wherever you want it to go, you can. Now, obviously, right now with the COVID-19, someone needs to be close enough that if there's an elevated temperature, that you're flagging them, and getting them away from everybody, and then doing a complete, FDA approved fever detection to determine what goes into that. Now, that's what they're getting when they buy that kit. We do have the mobile unit, which comes on a little rolling cart that everything is self-contained. The camera is mounted on it. The monitor's mounted on it. There's a keyboard on it. And you can roll that to wherever you're wanting to check in people, position it the way you want. And the only plug-in is, a 110 outlet. So extension cord or whatever you need to get that. But it's a 1-point plug-in, and you're up and running.
So on the alerts, obviously you have a monitor, right? Because you have a computer, and so the software will do whatever it does on the screen, right? Alert, flash, beep at you, whatever. Is there additional technology in there to be able to send SMS or text message alerts or email or anything like that? Obviously we want the person monitoring at that point to know immediately But I imagine people like CFOs, CEOs, HR managers, risk managers are going to want to know also. So does it have that ability also to send emails to people when we do detect stuff?
Correct. It will. So when you walk in, it's putting a little square around each face. The camera is dual. So there's actually two lenses. One shows you the thermal image and one shows you the actual video, so that you're seeing that side by side if you so choose. So it puts a square around your face and it puts your temperature above the square, and it's in whatever color you want it to be for, normal temperature. Most of the time we've done that in black. Shows up very well generally with the lighting in the lobbies that we've done so far. And then if there's an elevated temperature, that little square turns red and gives you the temperature above it. And at the same time, sends an alert, which is an audible alert. That sound can be chosen to whatever you want it to be. And then it also sends you a snapshot of the individual with the square around its face and the temperature above it, so that you know this is the individual that just got flagged out of 30 people. That, and you have to have that because you can't sit there and go, oh shoot, which one was it, that just walked through. So it sends you that snapshot, and it can send out an email. You can log it, you can record it if you choose to record it. It doesn't have to be recorded. And these are all questions that each company has to dive into with their HR departments and their legal departments, because obviously here, Brink, you're touching on privacy issues, HIPAA issues, FDA issues, everything. Right now, during the virus, the FDA part has relaxed the settings that this does not have to meet FDA for this, for the initial checkpoint. That's why we're very, very careful in saying it's temperature monitoring, not fever detection. When a lot of these units started coming out, it was fever detection. Well, is it or is it not? We let the lawyers fight that out, because they're all going broke in this country. So
right.
That's for them to decide. And then the other thing that has to be decided with it, Brink, it's no different than all of security. In every show we've ever done, it doesn't matter what tool, what tactic, what weapon, anything. It's the policy and the procedure that you have to have in place prior to installing this. What is your plan? How is your traffic going to flow? If someone is elevated, how are you going to handle that? Who's going to handle that? There's a lot of issues coming up with it right now. In some cases, we've seen people wanting to put in dual monitors so that the actual people walking through can see what it's doing, and what everybody's seeing. That's a great idea. But then it also gets into HIPAA. What if you walk in with 4 of your buddies and one of them's, elevated, but yet you see him out on the plant floor later that day, and you're going, wait a minute, I walked in with him, I saw he was elevated, but when he went and got checked, his temperature was fine, he was clear, but people do not know that at that time. So, the 2 monitor thing is kind of in discussion. I mean, again, that's to each company's decision, not ours, to what they're comfortable with and how they want to handle that.
Well, to that note, on seeing the guy on the floor that you walked in with, I mean, that's on the organization. That's on the company to communicate the policy well to the employees in the beginning and let them know, hey, if you walk in with Joe Schmo and he's elevated and then you see him at work later, that means he passed an actual screening. I mean, that's not obviously on you guys. That's on the organization to have good communication to their personnel, because, again, people are all over the place on this thing. Some people are like, to heck with it, let's get back to work. And other people are like, I'm not going anywhere. So you're going to have that in every organization, and the concerns there. And so that's really on them to communicate well. I'm not an attorney, but I spent a lot of years in law enforcement, and the typical standard was, what's the reasonable expectation of privacy that someone has at a certain place or location or a certain time? And most courts have agreed that you do not have a reasonable expectation of privacy walking in a lobby of a business, right? I mean, you just don't, as far as cameras go. Now, as far as monitoring audio, obviously the people have to be notified because that's a whole Title III violation, wiretap issue. However, but with cameras, there is no reasonable expectation of privacy for you at work. In the bathroom, of course there is. In the locker room, of course there is. In a lobby or general use area, no, there is no reasonable expectation of privacy. So I like the idea of adding monitors just to kind of help ease your organization, your employees' mind about what it is exactly. I just don't think that's I mean, again, I'm not an attorney, but I think most people would agree, knowing if your skin surface temperature is elevated, would be helpful. 99% of people, I think, would want to know that information. 98% of those wouldn't care if their buddy walking in next to them knew it too, more than likely. But again, like you said, that's organizational. I don't think we're going to run into any legal issues as far as doing this. I think you're going to have, again, a small handful of people that will take issue with it, and if they want to challenge it in court, then they can. In the meantime, like we've talked about on a previous show, the good of the overall public is really, I mean, again, we don't give up our constitutional rights, period, but the good of the overall public in your organization oftentimes outweighs someone's discomfort level with the fact that their forehead's being scanned when they walk in. Again, they're going to have those, deal with them on a case-by-case basis. But I think, man, and I know you have, but I'm just thinking out loud here for people that are listening. Concerts, right? We can get back to having concerts again, man, and have large group gatherings. As you all know, a large part of my business requires people to gather in groups for me to train them. But just any of those kind of events, I mean, moving forward, I think the possibilities are endless, and it oftentimes takes something tragic for ingenuity to surface, right? I mean, and what's the saying is a motherhood of invention. Desperate times call for desperate measures. All those things. I mean, look at what's happening. People are getting so creative. I saw something the other day online where somebody created their own Clorox wipes using a Folgers coffee can, cut a roll of paper towels in half, and put it in water and Clorox mixture. Fantastic. So again, this has been a game changer, I think, across the board. But I hope people will really dial in to this availability, to this technology. I'm certainly, as you know, we talked about this off the show, going to tell my clients about it and make sure they're fully aware, because we serve all sorts of organizations I think would really benefit from this.
Yeah, well, one of the questions we get asked is what have your results been? What have you seen? How has this been working? And everybody has to remember, this was coming around 4 weeks ago. So right. It's all brand new to everybody. So it is still under, we're kind of seeing who likes it, who's having trouble with it, what's going on. The military had this, prior. It has been used in other countries outside of the U.S. So we do have some feedback on it. You just took a drink of coffee. I just noticed that. That brings me to another point. That coffee cup generally is hot. And a lot of times people are walking into their offices drinking coffee. And, it's like, well, a coffee cup's going to be, 115 to 130. Is that going to give me a false positive there? Back to the facial detection part. If your coffee is in your hand, down at your side, or anywhere other than in your face area, it's not going to read that. It totally takes that out of the equation on this, the device that we're selling. Some of the ones that are just main, thermal cameras that will do the same thing, they're taking the highest point anywhere on the body that it's coming through. So we have tried to eliminate as many false positives as we can. We have to trick it to test it. So literally we spent the first day doing demos everywhere and would use a hair dryer to elevate our temperature, between our eyes and on our forehead. And it was hilarious. That was last Friday, and I get by Sunday I was literally blistered from my foot winter time.
You got hair dryer burn? That's hilarious.
Yes, I was like, oh my gosh, the dangers of work right now. So,
that's funny.
At least it wasn't a gun shooting at us. It was just hair dryer this time. But we, there are different things. When you wear a hat, when you take your hat off, we're able to see about a 0.2 degree difference of heat elevation under a hat. So it is very sensitive, and it does pick up very well. So, I just want people to know that it is new. Be patient. Do your due diligence. And when you're looking at all these different units, we have questions of, why is it so expensive? Well, it's a thermal camera, and thermal cameras are expensive to start with prior to this. So it's, we want to make sure people understand it's not a price increase because of the pandemic or anything. The technology you're getting for that is quite expensive prior to even adding the temperature part to it.
Well, and okay, a couple things. One, there's no technology that's perfect, so people are going to have to understand that it's not perfect. And yeah, I don't really think it's for what you're getting. I don't find it that expensive, and we'll talk about price point here in a second. But what's the cost to your organization if you have a COVID-19 breakout at your place of work versus this, right? I mean, it may not stop everything, but let's say it stops one. I mean, that's the game changer to me. And yeah, it's an investment, but I want people to know before we wrap up here that there's really three options available. Again, they can reach out to Herring Technology to get more information, but there's the standalone unit that's not portable or not mobile, and the cost on that is around, what is it, Tom? That one's
right about $9,500 for the unit that can be set up on a tripod on a table within a lobby. It is portable, but it's going to take you a while to set it up. You can't just pick it up from one entrance and move it to a different entrance. It's going to take a little time to set up. And then we have the mobile.
Where's the mobile one? You literally unplug it, drag it somewhere else, plug it back in, you're good to go.
Correct. You're up and running. And then there is.
What does that one run?
That one's going to run you around $12,500 for that. That's for the heavy duty cart that it goes on. And then there's a handheld unit, and I think it's around $5,500.
Okay.
The issue with the handheld is you're not doing the up to 30 people. You're doing it's a 1-to-1. So I'm going to have someone there that's aiming and shooting at one person, aiming and shooting at the next person, aiming and shooting at so that's where you have to decide, is your organization large enough and the volume coming in to where it's worth that extra money? Or if you have 15 to 20 people at your office, a handheld is probably perfect for you. You do not need the other. But if you have high volumes coming in, schools, lots of visitors, lots of employees, shift changes, those people do not want to stand like they're at a TSA check-in at the airport and go through everything every day coming in and out of your business.
Well, and that applies to customers too, right? We didn't even hit on that, but I mean, moving forward, just as a country, this technology can be deployed at a retail store. I mean, that's just going to be part of life for a little while until we figure out, vaccines and treatments and all that kind of stuff. But the possibilities really are endless, and I'm glad that the security technology sector has stepped up and said, okay, we've got this thermal detection technology, let's put it to use. And what perfect timing, obviously, really can't get much better than that. So I hope, again, I'm going to reach out to a lot of the organizations that I have as clients and make sure they know about it. I know you guys are also doing that as well. But, if people have questions, I would certainly reach out to Herring Technology. And they can answer whatever questions you guys have, but it's certainly something I'm going to be recommending to my clients. And I think most people will jump at the opportunity to protect their organization, their people, and really their business continuity, moving forward. We saw what this thing did without detection capabilities and without other plans in place. So again, technology is great, but back to plans, protocols, and training your people. I cannot stress that enough. So on that note, thank you all for listening for this edition of Tips, Tactics, and Tools for a Safer Tomorrow. You can always reach out to us at tipstacticstools.com or also on Facebook and Twitter.
I'm out.